Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Future Friday, we're going to talk about fixing global warming gradually part 6, biogas. So let's dive deep into it. So what exactly we are talking about here? Basically, whenever a biodegradable substance decomposes, it does not matter whether it's a liquid or a solid, it decomposes without oxygen, as in absence of oxygen, we get biogas, and which is a mixture. Be mindful, when we say biogas does not mean one thing. Biogas has a mixture. You're gonna get multiple things mixed into it. Now, thankfully, majority component would be CH4, meaning the useful puppy. And the core scientific notation of this is that what we call anaerobic decomposition. Basically, whatever you are doing is basically rotting the thing and making sure oxygen is not making love to it. This is the critical aspect of methane production. Basically, there should not be O2. Abundant O2 should not be there. Now, there is one thing you have to understand. Why do people focus so much on cows? Everybody is like cows. It's like, what? Why? Well, the reason is this. Whenever you see something decomposing in nature like this, it does not mean it has oxygen. Like, wait a minute. It's in atmosphere, open area. So why does not? Well, the upper layer has it. The bottom layer does not. So yes, it will produce more CO2 compared to CH4, but it will still produce CH4. And same goes with large, basically animals' gut. It has enough stuff that there could be pockets that are decomposing without oxygen, meaning methane output, meaning they are constant methane. And we also do that when we have indigestion, our so that's what we are talking about. So that's why it does not require enclosure. Anytime biodegradation is happening, be it inside your gut or be it in a forest, it's creating methane. Just how much, that depends on the context. Something like big decomposing, it will create too much methane. Something that is like very small, lot of surface area, it will have majority CO2 rather than CH4. So that's what we are talking about. Now, is CH4 useful? Absolutely. This puppy has classified as useful fuel because it has 50 to 55 megajoule per kilogram. Now, be mindful, megajoule per kilogram is almost useless because how the heck you gonna carry it? It's like, that's the reason why on paper hydrogen feels awesome, because it's like 130 to 150 megajoule per kilogram, but it's like, how are you gonna carry 1 kilogram of it? So we have to come to mathematical terms, which is LNG, liquefied natural gas, which is 24 megajoule per liter, actually useful. And then we have CNG, compressed natural gas, that is 7.5 megajoule per liter, still not amazing but useful. And to give you a context awareness of that, diesel is 42 to 46 megajoule per kilogram, not that amazing compared to methane, but the moment you have to carry it in a tank, 38 megajoule per liter. This is the critical. That's why hydrogen does not work. Like, it works on paper, everybody's like megajoule per kilogram. Please Google, for your sake, how many megajoule per liter it has in liquid hydrogen stage. Don't even go how much it has when you are talking about like CNG level pressure or hydrogen level pressure. CNG is like around 300 bars, and hydrogen may require 600 to actually be somewhat useful. So that's why it's actually a useful fuel, and it's carbon neutral. Basically, it's solar energy with extra step. Now you may be like, then why not fossil fuel is carbon neutral? Is this fossil fuel came the exact same way? Only difference is fossil fuel is not actively partaking in the ecosystem. It was something that Earth sequestered away, meaning it was Earth's reject that nature was like, nope, we noped it. Now we extracted that puppy out again, that created an unbalance. That's all we are talking about. When we are talking about global warming, we are not talking about something magical or something evil. We are talking about unbalance. Basically, Thanos went away. Basically, it's instead of like this, creation, consumption, like creation of methane, creation of CO2, consumption by the atmosphere, consumption by biological materials and all that, that was always at 6. So planet was GG. We unbalanced it. And now it's reaching a point where it can reach what we classify as a runaway effect. So we really have to apply brakes now. That is what you have to understand. It is carbon neutral. We can keep using it as long as we want to, as long as we are not digging it out of the ground. That is extra, that nature is like, bro, I can't digest that. So this is what we are focusing on. So let's understand chemistry. Now be mindful, this chemistry goes way beyond my understanding, and this is beyond voodoo magic. So it's very complex. Now it is multi-stage process. Generally the stages are classified in 4 distinct groups, and many times if you see large biogas farms, they generally have multiple stage units. And you may think, oh, they are processing large amount. No, not all the time. Many times they could be like literally one giant tank for one stage, one giant tank for another stage. That could also be done. Of course, they sequentially do it while they have second load, so they do have very high yield, but they also can control because they're controlling each layer individually. So layer 1, hydrolysis. I do not ask me who give these names. So basically, what is there in biomatter? Whenever you're talking about biomatter, be it waste, be it new, what is there? Well, you have proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids. More or less, that's all you're gonna get. There are, of course, other things also, but this is the what we call majority constituents. So what can you get out of it? Well, you get amino acids, sugars, fatty acids. That's why it's like basically you are breaking it down. This is the first stage. You are breaking things down. Then you have acidogenesis. Who came up with the name acidogenesis? Basically the acid phase where you're gonna get fatty acids and amino acids and sugars also. So this is where you start your reaction. That's the phase 2. Then you have acetogenesis. Basically you're gonna get ammonia, volatile fatty acids, and alcohol. When you talk about people saying now we're gonna rot the grapes and to make a wine, that's what they're talking about. So basically they're going A, B, C. They're stopping here. So what happens if you actually keep going further than this? Then you reach what we classify as methanogenesis, which makes sense. It's like you're gonna make methane out of it. And you pay attention, there is one stage where it's generating hydrogen. That's how you're getting your methane, because again, you have carbon. Where the heck hydrogen is coming from? That there are enzymes that are creating hydrogen itself. That hydrogen is bonding with carbon that is in the circulation, that is giving you methane. And if you have heard some news where people are like, we're gonna make hydrogen out of biology, that stage is what they are focusing on. If people are talking about making alcohol, that's the stage what they are talking about. Making sugar, that's the stage that they are talking about. So everything is already there. We are just doing it all in sequence until we reach the final product, which is methane and carbon dioxide. Now this is the most critical aspect. You always gonna get carbon dioxide. No matter what you do, you're gonna get it. Methane is ideal output. Now generally, mathematically said, it's around 60% of the stuff would be CH4 and 40% of the stuff would be carbon dioxide. It's gonna be there. That's the reality. However, just because let's say one company builds 2 plants, it will never give the same output. They could literally be clone of same hardware, but they will never give same output. Why? Because you have to understand each stuff that we put into it has different yield. For example, when you put a total solid, meaning what you are measuring, how much poop is there, how much you're gonna actually measure it, does not mean you actually have the same amounts of volatile solids. So you have total solids and then you have volatile solid in them. Now they have different percentage. For example, you have spent fruit that only 90 to 95% is going to go through this, and then that remaining 5% is just going to yeet out of there. So you have to understand, just because you're like, oh, I sent 10,000 tons of basically spent fruits, why I'm not getting the same amount of? Because it has deal. The volatile solid percentage is low. So some things could have very, very low volatile solids. For example, market waste 50 to 80%. So you, at worst case scenario, you could be like, hey, only half I'm getting, because again, the volatile solid percentage is very small. Bio waste could be 50 to 70%. Over stored food is generally 81 to 97%. So you have to be very mindful about these sort of things. Like how much is there does not mean just like, oh, I can see 100 tons, measure 100 tons, so I'm going to do the calculation. You have to do calculation of volatile solids. Then we come to another aspect. Everything has basically different what you call yield rate. For example, the best yield rate you're going to get is palm oil mill waste. Basically, palm oil is being created, it has waste, put it there, this puppy will go smooth. It's going to give you around 610. What is the unit? Liter per kilogram of volatile solids. So this puppy is like seriously high production. Then you have food waste, that is like around 396 liters per kilogram of volatile solids. And then you have swine manure, this sort of thing. And the worst thing is lignin rich organic waste, meaning wood based stuff. So if you try to decompose wood, because be mindful, wood is designed by nature as its first plastic. Basically we made plastic, nature made lignin. So lignin was nature's plastic, basically the first cellulose structure that was the armor. Nature now can decompose it, that's the true part, but it's not very efficient. That's why trees can last that long. So you're gonna get the worst yield. So if you're like, oh, I'm gonna just digest stuff from wood mills and all that, you can get methane out of it. That's factually true, but you may be better off if you are just converting them into charcoal and then combusting them. So these are the core aspect. And while 60% and 40% looks like 100%, you have to understand there will be impurities. All of these stages will not happen like smooth. And be mindful, there are non-volatiles also there. So sometimes you will have severe impurities, which could be water vapor, GG, or H2S, hydrogen sulfide. Yeah, that's a bad puppy, meaning it's gonna smell like rotten eggs. Bad puppy. You do not want to know this. And this is the reason why this is not done everywhere. It's a complex and sensitive operation. All these stages may require dedicated control. All of these stages may have contradictory requirement, meaning one stage will be like acidic, awesome, another stage like bro, calm it down, it has to be neutral. And then you may actually have a stage where it's like, I'm putting it to a second tank and I'm adding base salts to it to stabilize it. And yes, it is done. These are one of those things that people who get PhD on this thing, that's what they do. They fine tune all of this, and then only you can come close to the theoretical yield of 60%. So this is the chemical aspect. That's why it's not just like, oh, why don't everybody do it? Yes, you can do whatever the heck you want, put everything in a bottle and just get methane out of it. Yes, it will work. But the yield, rather than 60% or even 50%, it would be like 5%. So you have to understand, this is a complex and sensitive operation. Now, what's the danger? Well, danger is methane is one of those things that we cannot ignore. Why? It makes CO2 look like a baby that is throwing temper tantrum. That's how brutal this is. Now, if you look at the Earth right now, we look at satellite, we start to analyze it. It's like, yeah, methane is causing same amount of damage as CO2. Like, wait a minute, are we releasing that amount of CH4? Hell no. Then how the heck? That's the whole point. It's very brutal because it reflects a very particular wavelength of infrared, and that infrared is like keeps going back. So it's the potential, what we classify as global warming potential. It's exponentially more, not a little bit more. No. Exponentially more than CO2. So you could have billion ton and only million ton in CH4. CH4 will be like, bro, I got this. I'm gonna cook the earth. And that's why people, when they're talking about like Mars, basically habitation and all that, they are talking about like methane into the atmosphere, because here's the deal, CO2 is like, it will take long. Methane, I got this. So you have to understand that when it comes to cooking the planet, methane is the worst greenhouse gas. So we really have to break it down. Meaning, whenever you see some videos of like, oh, there was a natural gas well and then somebody set it on fire, they are doing environment a favor, because CH4 directly going into atmosphere, over time is going to oxidize. But it's much better rather than like letting it react to the atmosphere, or letting it absorb sunlight. It's much better to like, hey, just get divorced as quickly as possible. Just go from this to CO2. CO2 is becoming a hassle for us because of the size, basically the amount that we are adding. CH4 is like, bro, we are leaking CH4 and it's like atmosphere is like, I can't handle this. So this is very, very brutal. We have to break CH4 into CO2 or be cooked as a consequence. And whenever you're talking about like permafrost is gonna decompose, that's why people are worried about it. Could add enough CH4 that it could create what we call a runaway effect. That would be bad. So we have to use it. Thankfully, it's a very easy to use fuel for our existing infrastructure. Meaning, if you want to run trucks on it, you can modify it. Unwise use of it, but you can do it. If you want to like, hey, I have a truck fleet and I want to, instead of using fossil fuel, I want to use biofuel, convert most of them into CNG, it's gonna work. Heck, half of Delhi has that. It's a normal thing. We don't even think about. And when you're talking about giant power production, basically these jet turbine puppies, those run on natural gas anyway, meaning methane. They are running on methane anyway. It's like they won't even notice. It's like, oh, switched from fossil fuel to, basically you switched CH4 from CH4. It's like it won't make any difference. So that's the good part. We can actually use this puppy. That's the good part. Bad part is like we cannot ignore it. Like we have to handle this. We cannot be like, leaking it is like not worth it. No. It is worth it. If you don't, we're gonna be cooked. So that's the dangerous aspect of it. That's why this graph looks so odd. It's like, hey, CO2, everybody knows about it. CH4, nobody talks about it. But CH4 is like, bro, I got this. Like it is what we call as well silent killer. So what's the first sector? First sector is farming, obviously. Now, India is basically dairy daddy, practically speaking. Like most other things China is making, USA is making, India is not that big. But dairy is like, no, sir. No, you don't even come close. Not even close. So we have idiotically large farms and the output is huge. Basically, we have insanely large amount of cow dung and we have to milk that. Yes, that was intentional. So that's what we have to do, basically convert cow dung into actually methane gas. Because be mindful, if cow dung is rotting on its own, it's still creating methane and it's still toxifying the atmosphere. We rather collect it, burn it. That's much better rather than just letting the methane go to the atmosphere. So we have to do it. Now, India did try biogas very early on. I'm like 30 years old and I remember like very early days of my schools, there was like books and everything was like, biogas, it was in geography. We were taught quite vehemently about this. And even our televisions used to have ads like this, like very long ago in Doordarshan. So India did try it. That was good. But they messed up one thing very royally, is that they did not try it for aggregation. Meaning we have villages. Each villages could have like multiple milk producers, so to say. Each of them could easily have like 10 cows to 100 cows. Now, the problem was what government originally was planning to do is like each milk farmer should have their own biogas plant. Yeah, that does work. You do get methane out of it, but the output never matched the expectation. Why? Because it's not a control system. When you have something like this, it's not controlled. You're not fine tuning it. So what we need mathematically is what we classify as aggregation, basically feed aggregation. So you have a village that's a grand total has 5,000 cows that are whose cow dung is being collected. That 5,000 has to go into one central location rather than in multiple small ones. It has to go into one large central location. Then economy of scale kicks in. Now you can have a completely large plant where you can fine tune the operation. You can have multiple tanks. Each tanks will be well monitored, feedback loop and control and all that. And then you can have staff that is staffing it 24/7. And then you're going to get amazing yield. At that point in time, also the digest that is coming out on the other end, that's also or will be also more nutritious. So this is what we have to do. This is not good. When you see people are like, oh, we can do it behind a farm, behind a hotel, behind like even your backyard. Yes, it can be done. Yes, it will work, but it's unwise because unless you have a control over all those stages, the yield rate would be almost useless. So people will like, hey, I bought this. It does not work the way I thought. Yeah, that's the reason. You need to control each phase. It does require temperature control. It does require acidity control. Those things are not something that you can just do at backyard. So this is what we have to do to aggregate it, and then we can get what we classify as max yield, meaning 50-55%, and then we have quality control also, meaning the output will be good, sulfide won't be released, so it won't stink everywhere. That would be also awesome. It has to be done. Now, this is one thing. Every country has to look into this. They cannot be like USA is very far behind in this. Why? Because their gas price versus biogas price is exponentially far apart. But they still have to do it. Gas should not be let into the atmosphere under any and all circumstances. We have to consume it. So it's one of those things that we have to do. India did try it. I'm happy that our government did try, but we really have to try it again, and we really have to aggregate these things. Unless we do that, we are literally running on borrowed time. So we really have to do this. And of course, there are certain plants, but we are not maximizing it. We have potential. Like if you try to calculate it on paper, yeah, we have more than enough potential. But we are not milking because we are not aggregating it. It has to be aggregated, only then it increases yield. Enough where it's like, now we are talking serious amount of yield. So that's the farm thing. Most people kind of understand it, but here's the deal. There is another tank that we are not tapping. That tank is basically, we are the source. Basically, we poop. We have food waste. Both of these sources, poop and food waste, alone combined can produce more than enough CH4. Now, be mindful. When I'm talking more than enough, does not mean it's going to take care of a nation, but it can do something like this. Basically, you have 1 year of collection, 1 year of digestion, generation, and all that, and you're collecting all of it. It can allow you to run your nation for few days. Like literally, and that's a good storage to have. And let's say you are going all renewables, you have solar, you have wind, you have hydro, and whatever have you. You would still want to have something that is more like a fuel, like where you can use it in emergency, or you can be like, hey, I'm storing this for the rainy days and all that. You can use this. So it's one of those things that's really, really wise, because CH4 is coming. This is one thing you have to understand. When you have food that is just rotting, CH4 is coming. We shall not let CH4 come, because it's not winter, it's summer is coming. So CH4 have to, and we have to break it. We have to make sure that carbon and hydrogen get divorced and they get married to oxygen. We have to do this. And thankfully, it does allow us to use the digest, meaning the output of basically this process is actually useful. This is actually desirable for us. And be mindful, the output does have ammonia, which we add artificially. It's like, it has that. I specified all those stages, they do create ammonia. So it's basically, now in case of India or in case of Asian nations, we do luck out in this way. Our natural gas price versus our biogas price, the price is like very close, very close. Now, why the heck municipality is doing this? Is Indian municipality that is doing this. Now, they are talking about this is sabji mandi, basically a place where vegetables are sold. Now, they sell a lot, every day, a lot. Okay, awesome. But here's the thing, not everything is sold. That will always happen. Now, at that point in time, you have ginormous amount of waste. Now, who is responsible for this? Municipality. Municipality has to pay money to collect that waste and ship it to a nearest landfill. So somebody came up with the idea, it's like, hey, instead of shipping it to somewhere far off and still having the methane poisoning, what if I ship it to a place close enough and they have this plant that is crunching this. This plant is crunching around 10 tons a day. So they are crunching 10 tons a day and getting methane out of it. What is the use of methane in this context? Well, they are running two things. First, power generation. Second, they are feeding a kitchen. And that kitchen, because it's aggregating so much, it can actually run the kitchen that is feeding 600 people a day. So It's actually wise. And because of the system and your expenditure on actually, collection, transportation, landfill cost and all that, it's actually going down. So you are spending less money. Municipality likes that. You are getting electricity. Municipality likes that. You are consuming gas directly. That's the easiest use. You have biogas, you just use it directly. That's awesome. So even that cost is saving. Municipality likes that. And here's the extra bonus. Now you have a biodigest. That digest is a fertilizer. Now you can sell it to farmers, and farmers willingly, happily, they can combine it and use it in their farmlands, and they are also happy because the carbon economy is circular at that point in time. So at this point in time, from basically municipality's point of view, it's like shut up, take money, and they have done this. They are running on it, and it's actually making sense. And it's not making sense only because I specified the price of natural gas is low enough where it's like methane is not worth it. But if we do it like in this way, hey, you have to pay for the poofing of basically solid waste. What about you poof it in useful way? Now, like, yeah, but energy, electricity, we're not going to get too much electricity. Yeah, that is true. That is factually true. But what if you also reduce your cost on poofing the biological material? Okay, it's coming close. But what if you sell fertilizer? Now it's actually cost effective, and people are happy, farmers are happy, everybody wins. So this is what we have to do. We have to start digesting poops, food waste. All of these things have to be digested. Now USA is really behind in this, given the fact that they waste, I really hope this is wrong, but more than 30% of food. Some say 40%. I genuinely hope that's not true. But let's say they do. Convert it into methane, because be mindful, it's gonna turn into methane anyway. You have to do it. Now their gas prices are very far apart, like very, very far. Like natural gas is like almost free compared to the biogas price, but they have to do biogas in such a way where it's like, yeah, we have to do it to handle the bio waste, and we have to do it in order to save the planet, because otherwise we'll be cooked. And the reduction of solid waste, production of fertilizer, that will be the added bonus. So it's almost like, from our vantage point of view, it's fuel and fertilizer for free. We're gonna pay for solid waste management. Why not convert it into useful things? Like, this is a CNG plant, meaning it creates biogas, sends it into vehicle directly. Don't even think about it. So this is a long-term solution. Basically, once you have these things, will it eliminate our reliance on gas? Hell no. But it will reduce enough of it that if we have enough renewables, this would be the enough buffer where it's like, hey, not only I'm saving the planet, I'm also giving humanity a buffer where they're like, hey, what if that bad day, that really bad day where you did not have enough water, you did not have enough sunlight, you did not have enough wind. In that bad day, if you are collecting on a national scale, they're like, bro, I got this. I got this. Because be mindful, this is just fuel. You can collect it, store it, even liquefy it. If you do not have surface area, you can liquefy it and store it for long term. So it is a really useful tool in order to fight basically global warming, and exponentially far more potent, because be mindful, CH4 makes CO2 look like child throwing temper tantrum. So this was my presentation on basically taking care of the biogas part, the methane, the silent poofer of the planets. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.